Visit Sigiriya. It is a tale of treachery and deceit, love and hate, triumph and disaster that has fascinated people down the ages. It is also a tale of craftsmanship and sensuous art, the legacy of which still holds people in awe, more than 15 centuries later. All about Sigiriya and more will now be available to discerning tourists, both local and foreign, at the state-of-the-art Sigiriya Museum and Information Center, having as its backdrop the formidable rock fortress, to be opened shortly. Many are familiar with the Kasyapan period 477 to 495 AC, when King Kasyapa, after murdering his father King Datasana, made his home at Sigiriya, creating a different image of this forbidding rock outcrop, starting with a passage leading through the lion's paws and encompassing the lion staircase, the mirror wall, the beautiful apsaras, the water gardens, moated palaces, boulder gardens, terrace gardens al. But what of the pre- and post-Kasyapa period, asks Central Cultural Fund CCF Director General Professor Sudarshan Senaviratna, explaining its many-layered history. Sigiriya, in addition to being a World Heritage Site, is also one of the very few large secular sites with an unbroken history from 5000 BC to contemporary periods. It depicts a microcosm of the cultural and technological phases of Sri Lanka, he says. The museum represents all these facets in their totality, he adds, explaining that the concept was conceived by the first director of the Sigiriya project, Professor Sanake Bandaranaike, who later took up the mantle of CCFDG, assisted by various eminent scholars. The concept was translated into the material structure by architect Chandana Elpola, while the internal design was handled by Japanese experts who were advised by a team of Sri Lankan specialists. Picking out one of many factors which make this museum unique, Professor Senaviratna says it is the first with facilities for the differently abled. While the whole area is naturally landscaped to blend with the environment, the location is scenic, built on the Yanoya, with most of the trees branching skyward through the museum and streams winding through it, giving out a merry tinkling tone. This is in keeping with the ability of the ancient builders who not only laid out the garden elements in a grid pattern but also embraced organic beauty and asymmetry, molding their building onto boulders although they had sufficient engineering knowledge to remove them, he says. All important features of Sigiriya such as the frescoes, spiral staircase and bubble fountain have been replicated, the Sunday Times understands. This is a bonus for anyone who cannot scale the rock, says the DG. The spiral staircase is made to the same scale as the actual one, giving a true picture, while the objects gallery, for sculpture, coins, graffiti writing will exhibit some beautiful pieces, pride of place being given to the intricately carved single ear ornament found at the site and believed to have been worn by a Sigiriya maiden. Even the biodiversity and the important archaeological monuments around the rock fortress such as the prehistoric megalithic burials at Ibankatua will be represented, says Professor Senaviratna, adding that another unique exhibit will be the partially conserved original furnace used for steel making with tours and all, brought from Alakalawewa, a vast iron smelting site in the olden days, close to Sigiriya. Some of the exhibits including the burials, the landscape presentation of Sigiriya as also the backdrop of the rock and authentic imitation of the fresco pocket were turned out in Japan, explains the DG, adding that it was like a giant jigsaw puzzle, with the pieces being brought down and carefully assembled in Sri Lanka. Explaining that it is difficult to pinpoint all the extraordinary features of the museum, he says that the Chulavamsa section on the Kaspaya legend has been engraved on a glass panel near the amphitheatre which doubles up as a performance balcony. Another lure for the tourist will be the visitor-approachable conservation laboratory, while additional attractions will be a library and archival facility, an information center run by the Tourism Ministry, internet facilities, a sales outlet for authentic replicas from Batalier and a restaurant. The museum will be an ideal research center for archaeologists and conservators, he says. The centerpiece, according to Professor Senaviratna, is the glass-topped model of Sigiriya with water gardens and all, giving a bird's-eye view of its grandeur. About the museum, the Sigiriya Museum and Information Center has been funded by Japan, through JICA, under its project for the development of culture-oriented tourism, COT, which hopes to promote nature culture traditional lives. The funds were channeled through the Ministry of Cultural Affairs and National Heritage and the project executed by the CCF. The museum was a long-felt need to attract the up-end tourist market, local as well as foreign, stressed CCFDG professor Senaviratna. These tourists look beyond simplistic information or just visiting a site and moving on. There are a few such museums scattered across the country. In addition to the National Museum in Colombo, the Sunday Times understands. These include the Polonnaruwa Museum funded by the Netherlands and the Hayajuriya Museum in Anuradhapura funded by the Chinese. The Marine Archaeology Museum, including a marine biology section located in the warehouse in Gaul and funded by the Netherlands, is due to be opened soon.